Welcome to the Proud Psychologist podcast, where we look at all things mental health. Brought to you by me, Carol, an LGBTQ coaching psychologist. Hello everyone. Today we're looking at the different types of fulfilling and meaningful relationships that asexual people enjoy. Relationships are a contributing factor towards our mental health. And understanding what forms those relationships can take and how they can meet our individual needs are important when it comes to having good mental health. This is an important topic to explore because there are some incredibly pervasive ideas around what close and important human relationships entail. Before we get started, let's make sure that we are using some key terms in the same way. So, asexuality is the name we give to the experience of having little or no sexual attraction or desire. Asexual people, asexuals or aces, are the people who identify with asexuality. Because it's important to have words to talk about all of the human experiences, we also have allosexuality, which is the name given to having the experience of being sexually attracted to other people and desiring to do sexual things with them. This may be a new term for some people listening, and that's okay. Allosexual people, allosexuals, or allos are the people who identify with allosexuality. There's a lot of nuance once we dig into the spectrum of orientations and experiences that exist between asexuality and allosexuality. And this is often referred to as the asexual spectrum, or the A-spectrum, or even ASPEC for short. We aren't going to be diving into that today, but it is important to be aware of the fact that it isn't just black and white, and that there's a lot of nuance in how people experience sexual attraction and desire. So while we're getting clear on terminology, it is important to get at least a little familiar with the philosophy of relationship anarchy, RA for short. This is basically an approach to relationships which decides to deliberately buck the trend and go against the societal norms or expectations which state how relationships should look and operate, which get priority, etc. RA actually it encourages people to be actively involved in customizing their relationships. There are no automatic givens that all relationships of a certain nature are characterized by when it comes to RA. It is down to two or more people to agree what their connection will include based on their own specific needs, desires, commitments, availability, etc. Another aspect of relationship anarchy is the delineation of sexual and romantic connections. This basically means that when approaching things from an RA perspective, sexual and romantic connections are not automatically seen as more important and given more priority than platonic connections. I suspect that you can already see the relevance of RA to asexual people's relationships. For the purposes of this podcast episode, establishing this is enough for now. But if you would like to learn more about relationship anarchy, then I encourage you to look online as there are some great resources out there. Some of you may be wondering why we need to explore the different types of relationships a particular group in the LGBTQIA+ community, such as asexuals, might have. The answer is quite straightforward. By talking about the different ways relationships can look, operate, and be structured, we are doing a few things. First, we are normalising the fact that there isn't one way for people to have deep, meaningful connections. And we are also tackling unhelpful attitudes head-on and bringing awareness to options that people might not have considered possible. This all has a positive impact on ace people, as well as others in the community, such as aromantic and multigender attracted people, which includes bisexuals, pansexuals, omnisexuals, and polysexuals. It has positive impacts on heterosexuals too. Developing a more inclusive, expansive, and open attitude to how people can structure their relationship literally benefits us all. Something to keep in mind as we proceed is that most of the following options are not mutually exclusive. Obviously, you can't have a romantic, non-romantic relationship, but with the exception of direct opposites, the rest can be seen as a variety of options at a pick and mix stand. With that said, shall we start with romantic relationships? These are sometimes dismissed by allos as an option for ace people because there is a particularly insidious notion that romantic relationships require a sexual component with sexual attraction, desire, and flirting being seen as needed in the dating phase. Romance, however, is a distinct category from that of sex, and many ace people actively want and enjoy romance, irrespective of their interest in or desire for sex. They may have a strong romantic attraction to someone and be driven to give and receive romance with them. These types of relationships can be very rewarding for those that want it. There can be a real sense of frustration, though, when trying to date as an ace person because of that pervasive idea about the requirement of sex, sexual attraction, desire, and sexually fueled flirting in dating and romance. For some ace people, it can lead to not finding people to date in the first place, or to dates not progressing to romantic relationships. Reasons for this may be connected to the different experiences of sexual attraction or desire, or they may be connected to other things. Regardless, asexuals can have a trickier time of it in the dating world than allos. Romantic relationships may be sexual, non-sexual, kinky, vanilla, ethically or consensually non-monogamous, or monogamous. With that said, asexuals may also have non-romantic relationships, which could be sexual, non-sexual, kinky, vanilla, ethically or consensually non-monogamous, or monogamous. These connections can resemble friendships or companionships, but they may also be something else that doesn't so neatly fit into society's preconceived ideas of what human relationships are. Relationship anarchy principles are very aligned with having important non-romantic connections because of the way it actively opposes amatonormativity, the prioritization and normalization of pursuing romance and romantic relationships. When looking through the lens of relationship anarchy, non-romantic relationships are not automatically given lower priority than romantic ones. We are free to decide for ourselves how much time and energy we want to invest in each of our connections with others when coming from relationship anarchy, regardless of what others or society as a whole would have us do. Sexual relationships are also sometimes dismissed by allosexuals as an option for asexuals. The unspoken assumption is that asexual people are incapable of having sexual relationships because of their experience of little or no sexual attraction or desire. And if you were to look at some of the online asexual spaces, you may get the same impression there too. Not all aces are sex repulsed, and these tend to be some of the loudest voices in online spaces, in my experience anyway. There's good reason for this, because sex-repulsed aces have a harder time existing within and moving through our sex-obsessed world. They are not the only type of ace, though, and it's important to recognise the experiences of sex-neutral and sex-favourable aces as well. Some of these, though not all, will be happy having sexual relationships and may actively search for one. Some of the reasons that sex-neutral or sex-positive aces may have a sexual relationship are enjoying the physical act, enjoying providing satisfaction to and or a demonstration of love for their partner, having children, scratching an itch, i.e. satisfying the libido, and engaging in a sexual kink. There's plenty of variety in the type of connection that an ace person can or will want to have sex. For some, it needs to be in the context of a romantic relationship. Others simply need a strong enough emotional bond, regardless of whether romance is involved or not. And others find it best when there's little emotional connection. From what's been said already, it probably feels obvious to say that ace people can have non-sexual relationships. These relationships may be romantic or non-romantic. From the outside, they may look a lot like celibacy, but the reality is very different. Where celibacy is a conscious decision not to act on sexual attraction or desire, when asexual people have non-sexual relationships, it's typically because they're acknowledging they have no interest in being sexual in the relationship. They may masturbate while not wanting to engage in sexual activity with others. Sex-repulsed and sex-neutral aces tend to be the ones in these types of human connections. Relationship anarchy principles explicitly make space for non-sexual relationships being important to us in a similar way that they make space for non-romantic ones. Allonormativity is the prioritization of and normalization of the pursuit of sexual relationships, and relationship anarchy directly opposes it. People who live in alignment with these principles, whether monogamous or non-monogamous, are free to decide for themselves how much time, energy, and importance they have for specific non-sexual connections. Sexual connections do not automatically get more time, energy, and personal importance over non-sexual ones for relationship anarchists. So there's a significant type of non-sexual, non-romantic relationship ace people may have, and it's known as a queer platonic relationship, or QPR. There is a deeper commitment to each other in a QPR than, for example, a close friendship. This commitment is typically closer to that between romantic partners. Here, it seems to me that the word queer is a descriptor for the subverting of what society tells us close human relationships are, through so clearly rejecting the ideas of amatonormativity and allonormativity, which gives an automatic priority to romance and sex, respectively. There is no requirement for any of the people involved in a QPR to be of any particular genders. It's important to have a name for QPRs because, as with so much in our world, we need to have language to apply to them so we can understand and discuss them. These types of relationships are more well known in the asexual, aromantic, polyamorous, and ethically or consensually non-monogamous and relationship anarchy communities. As has been referred to multiple times so far, asexual people can have fulfilling experiences in ethically or consensually non-monogamous relationships, including polyamorous ones. There are so many ways of having ENM or CNM relationships, ranging from monogamish to polyamory, which is the practice of or ability to have multiple loving relationships at the same time. Some asexuals engage in forms of ENM or CNM, not because they want to have additional connections themselves, but to alleviate the pressure they may feel to perform sexually in a relationship with an allosexual person by changing the dynamics to enable the allo person to get their sexual needs met. This is only ever successful if the ace partner is freely consenting and has not been pressured or coerced into it. The fact that people can structure their relationships however best works for them and the people that are important to them means that it can be liberating and affirming for the asexuals who are interested in being non-monogamous. Some ace people can find ENM or CNM and poly communities focus on and give priority to romantic and sexual connections. But when there's overlap with relationship anarchy, or at least a less formal drive to address power imbalances, privilege, and systems of oppression, ENM, CNM, and poly networks can include all manner of human connections, not just those that are romantic and or sexual. Since ENM, CNM, and polyamory are ways of structuring relationships, they can be sexual, non-sexual, romantic, non-romantic, QPRs, kinky, or vanilla. Now, of course, not all aces are happy with a non-monogamous lifestyle, and that's totally valid too. Monogamy is not a dirty word, and some asexual people find they thrive in monogamous relationships. Some people will find it easier to only date other asexuals, while others are happy to date allos. Mixed orientation relationships between allosexual people and asexual people can face struggles in terms of different sexual needs, but they can also be very harmonious. The deciding factor here is, like in non-monogamous relationships, whether both people can happily agree on what their relationship will and won't contain, and what they are and aren't going to do together. Relationship anarchy is a philosophy and can go well with monogamous relationship structures. A monogamous relationship may be sexual, non-sexual, romantic, non-romantic, a QPR, kinky, or vanilla. Okay, I've referenced the possibility of aces having kinky relationships multiple times so far. The world of kink is varied and colourful, and it is also subject to misconceptions. A couple of these are that ace people aren't kinky, and that kink is strictly sexual in nature. There are actually a lot of aces who are kinky, and they may engage in sexual kinks even if they don't have vanilla sex. Some aces keep their kink firmly non-sexual too, and there are so many ways to do that. Kinky connections can be sexual, non-sexual, romantic, non-romantic, monogamous, or non-monogamous. So obviously, not everyone is kinky, and even those who are kinky may not have purely kinky relationships, so we need to talk about vanilla relationships as well. Vanilla just means non-kinky in this context, like mainstream. Plenty of aces enjoy vanilla connections with others, and these can also be sexual, non-sexual, romantic, non-romantic, monogamous, or non-monogamous. Okay, so thank you for sticking with me for this rather brief overview of the different forms of relationships that asexual people enjoy. As you can see, there is no one-size-fits-all approach, and asexuals as a demographic are as varied as the allosexual majority. Insight like this enriches our understanding of the world and other people in it, which is so valuable. It's valuable in helping to make the world better by building our awareness and normalising the different ways people experience life. It is my hope that this has been an affirming episode for any asexuals listening. I know that I would have loved to have asexuality be normalised and discussed openly when I was younger. Being ace is so totally valid and welcomed. If you haven't seen it already, please do check out my Asexuality 101 article on my website. You'll find the link in the episode description here. If you would like a bit more of a deeper dive into any of these types of relationships that asexual people can enjoy, please let me know and I'll get on to that. And until next time, take it easy.